Play the sound, please, Dan.
Oh my God, I can't wait. That's what pollsters or poll voters are saying about Notre Dame. I gotta have you in my top 20, my top 25. That's a poll without Notre Dame.
We're calling this segment Con Air. Dan, of course, it is based around the 1997 thriller, a heartwarming tale featuring Academy Award winner Nicolas Cage, among others. It's a story of an ex-con trying to get home, to be with his wife, to be with his daughter. It is a classic, to say the absolute bare minimum. On today's episode, though, our version of Con Air is us throwing out topics and us coming up with a con prefixed word to describe how we feel about it.
You could almost say it's up in the air, right?
You could almost say it's up in the air.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cameron Poe?
Love Cameron Poe.
Okay.
One of the
Nick
great
Cage?
characters of all time.
Little Malkovich in there?
Little Malkovich, John Cusack.
Yeah, of course.
Also in it, Steve Buscemi.
Classic.
A little bit of a cameo appearance in there as well.
All right. So, where are we starting? What's up in the air that you're either concerned or confident in?
Give me a con word related to Arch Manning, Dan Rubenstein.
Yeah, I'm concerned. Can I keep talking like that? Can I keep using that?
Do whatever you want, man. It's half your show.
Yeah, I'm concerned just because this is the third year. And, you know, increasingly getting reps last year, a couple starts, I believe, against, was it Monroe and Mississippi State for Texas last year? And having a whole offseason as the guy. And obviously it comes with a fair amount of hype. And it's a last name thing. It's a Texas thing. It's an SEC thing. It all makes sense. But to come in and look as off as he has early, this is when he's supposed to be otherworldly and maybe overhyped and overrated because he's going 28 of 31 against San Jose State or something like that. And you're just like, holy moly, this guy is just it. And he hasn't been it against these teams. And to on the fly find it against who Texas has left on this schedule is a big, big ask. And maybe we all owe a little bit of an apology to Quinn Ewers. Be like, hey, man, you weren't so bad. You had your deficiencies. We all do. But I'm not ready to write off Arch Manning as a successful quarterback. But in the present tense, once again, I said this on Saturday night, it is concerning because Texas has every advantage in the world in terms of roster building and Sark developing quarterbacks. He's done it time after time. And this guy just, in the present tense, is not it. So I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm fully concerned.
Okay.
But I'll say I'm conscious of the problem. I'm conscientious.
Okay.
I guess.
You're using convoluted words here. Yeah.
I know. I'm really digging into the toolbox of vocabulary terms, but I'm not full on concerned, but conscious.
Okay.
You know, I think we are right to be aware of this, and I think we are wise to pay attention to it moving forward to see if it's more of a trend. I was looking at some of the advanced numbers, and I won't bore people talking through all my air yards and success rates and completion per adjusted net yards per attempt, all these things that make people's eyes glaze over. But there's a lot of red on that spreadsheet.
Sure.
With respect to this Texas passing offense. And I think what I'm most interested in and what is preventing me from going full concern with this is if you watch the tape on Arch looks like he's trying to do too much right now.
Right.
He looks like he is out there playing a little bit of hero ball and trying to do a little bit too much. Maybe he is feeling the pressure of now being QB1 at the University of Texas. It probably is just going to take him a little bit more this season to get in the swing of things, to feel comfortable with the system, to realize that he doesn't all have to do it because he's got a really good team around him. That's kind of how I feel about Arch. Now, that being said, a couple weeks down the line, it gets tough in a hurry. We may not think a whole lot about Florida. Perhaps Billy Napier is on the hot seat now more than ever, but on the road in the swamp is not easy.
No, just environmentally, yeah.
The game neutral site against Oklahoma is not going to be easy. Oklahoma, I think, has looked damn impressive so far. They're also on the road at a place like a Mississippi State, which, again, had a 3.5 over-under. Mississippi State's looked much better than expected so far this season. You can go right down the line here. Games against Georgia, Of course, there's a game against Arkansas at home a week before that rivalry against Texas A&M comes back to Austin. This is not an easy slate by any stretch of the imagination. So I think this week, actually, in week 4, they've got a game at home against Sam Houston. Sam Houston's 0-3. They're not a good team, but this is an opportunity. A game like this is what I want to see when I want to see Arch Manning pop.
Right.
I think it's going to be games like this where he needs to get a little bit more confidence.
Ooh,
He needs to
confidence.
build.
Yeah.
That's right. Needs to build for the season ahead. After this week, they go on bye before things really heat up beginning of October as they get more into the throes of the SEC schedule. So this week, actually, for me, I think is going to be a pretty interesting tell for where things are at with Arch Manning. If he doesn't look good this week, knowing that there's a little bit of a getaway situation here with the bye on deck, then I'm going to be full-blown concerned.
Okay. So you're to be continued on Arch Manning. You're not ready to
you
reach
just may be better at this than me, but
you're
yes.
not ready to reach a conclusion.
No. Okay. Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Give me a con word for Georgia Tech.
Oh, I'm confident.
Yeah.
I'm
Why?
not
Why are you
confident
so
necessarily.
confident?
Well, their schedule, they're winning close games. They are leaning on what they should be leaning on, and that is the expertise and enthusiasm and killer instinct of Haynes King and this offense. The defense is getting stops. The defense, while not perfect, while not stocked with NFL players, obvious NFL players in the moment, they're holding up their end of the bargain. And again, it's health. It's the schedule that's ideal. And I think there's a fire with which they play that has me confident that, again, health is the big thing, that confident in their ability to take care of business against teams that are built with quote-unquote better players, teams that are built with quote-unquote lesser players. I just think there is a culture in place that I am in awe of at the moment.
I would say congratulatory, honestly.
Sure.
Or just congratulations
Yeah.
on the Georgia Tech side. I really like what we have seen so far. I mean, this is a gritty team. I believe you mentioned it at one of our episodes or one of our previous episodes talking about how Brent Key looks like he eats sawdust for breakfast.
Yes.
They have definitely embodied that spirit so far. And if you look around the ACC is gettable, man. It is gettable. Clemson is not what I thought, certainly not what I thought.
Well, they already
they
beat
were
them,
gonna
so they don't
be.
even have to worry about that in the moment. Yeah.
But I'm saying bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
As we've got this divisionless setup in most of these conferences, it's possible to beat a team and then end up in a rematch. If they played that game again today, I would again feel pretty good about where Georgia Tech's at.
Sure.
I think you have to, because there's a lot on the Clemson side that feels very much in flux. We also don't know, even though Florida State has looked incredible so far, we don't know if that will continue. There is definitely a body of work on the Miami side, even though they have looked really good so far this season.
Yeah.
Where we look at their team, we look at what they've done in the past under Mr. Mario Cristobal, and we say, okay, well, they have come up short in some of these big moments. There is a toughness that I think we can question about many of the other peers in the ACC that I don't think we can question so much on the Georgia Tech side.
On a losing
They're
streak to
very-
Georgia Tech, by the way, Miami. Yeah.
They're very, very tough. They're tough-minded, and in a conference that to some extent still feels wide open to me, I just congratulate them on getting to this point.
You congratulate them.
Yes, congratulate.
We are both convinced of Georgia Tech. And look, the other good thing about Georgia Tech in this moment is they have room to grow on both sides of the ball. That it is possible that with self-scouting against a couple of these teams, that they can go back to the drawing board against some of these teams that might be struggling a little bit more on their schedule and figure out how to pass downfield even more, how to take advantage of play action even more, how to get after the passer even more. That there's room to grow for Georgia Tech, and that's always a good thing.
DJ Lagway, Dan.
Oh, man. Once he transfers to Oregon, I feel really good about the trajectory of his
He's not
career.
going anywhere. He loves Florida.
Well, if his coach is gone after this year.
He loves Florida. I think he is a Florida lifer. He is not going anywhere.
Okay. DJ Lagway. I think he is not the only one to blame. Obviously, he has played fewer years or has been in college fewer years than Arch Manning, and so that's why I put a little bit more on Arch. That number is terrible. That 5 number against LSU is flat out terrible.
5 interceptions.
When you're capable of 5 interceptions, that means on a certain level, you are incapable of regulating yourself and throwing into quadruple coverage and not seeing guys in lanes, that you are just letting it rip without any regard. And that's concerning to me. I'm not going to be a DJ Lagway apologist because they do have advantages as well, like Florida does. I am just... The advantage that they don't have is they don't have the offensive mind behind the scenes to sort of develop him as a quarterback, it seems. And so I'm willing to extend a little bit more grace to DJ Lagway moving forward, because I think some of the throws he does make still leave you in awe. It doesn't make up for the 5 number against LSU, and this should be a good LSU defense this year, we think. But I'm concerned but not convinced that this season is a wasted DJ Lagway year.
Yeah, and what's interesting, just again diving into the spreadsheet a little bit, they've actually done a pretty good job protecting him. The pass protection's been okay. They haven't allowed a whole lot of pressure relative to the field, but there is, I think, a greater concern, bigger picture about the Florida program. Billy Napier's still calling plays, which has definitely been a thorn in many sides.
Yeah.
In the Florida universe. And also they have assembled so much more talent around him, especially out wide, that you would hope in the early going here, if Florida was going to take this big quantum leap forward, that they would find better ways to tap into that. Now, I know they're still banged up a little bit, but still, I would expect to see a little bit more against the likes of USF, even against the likes of LSU.
Right.
LSU has taken a big step forward on defense. I think we know that at this point in time, but in the past, this is not a defense that we have confused at all with a shutdown defense. And even if it is better than it was a year ago, there's still no excuse for 5 interceptions.
But
that's just way too much.
By the way, sidebar, I don't know if this item is on your list, but I am convinced Brian Kelly needs a few real friends. A real confidant or something.
We're going to talk about Brian Kelly next.
Woo!
I want to talk about Brian Kelly next. But on the Florida side of things, I also do get the sense, much like I described with Arch Manning, where DJ might be trying to do a little bit too much, where maybe the play calling isn't there to help support him. There is also a lot of red on this spreadsheet. This has not been an explosive offense at all so far this season. So they've got a lot of work to do. And if we bring it up with Texas, we have to bring it up with the Florida Gators.
Agree.
Because I think their schedule is harder. Like, they're on the road this week at Miami before going on by and then coming back home to play Texas, going on the road to play Texas A&M, getting Mississippi State at home, again, who has played well. They've also got Georgia, they've got Ole Miss, they've got Tennessee, and they close out the season against the Florida State Seminoles, who have been having their own renaissance so far this season. To be at this stage, 1-2 does not bode well for hitting any of your overs.
Agree.
I think that goes without saying. And it certainly does not bode well for a guy like a Billy Napier, who was already coaching for his job. So at a minimum, just with respect to the Florida season, I'm very concerned.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the con word is on the DJ Lagway thing. I am confident that he will stay at Florida, regardless of who the coach is.
Sure.
I'm sure Jed Fish will do a great job re-recruiting him to stay in Gainesville once he gets there. But right now, I think my concern is more about the Florida program and where it's headed, and certainly Billy Napier, than it is DJ Lagway.
Okay, fair enough.
LSU.
Yeah.
I bring up LSU not because they're not winning, but because of the offense, Dan.
Yeah.
What is the deal with the LSU offense? Is that a concerning thing to you at this point, or is it overblown?
It is concerning to me at this point, just because this has been one of the programs that has been more active in the portal to try and improve things. This year it was at receiver and I think tight end. Obviously a rebuilt offensive line, but if your starting point is Garrett Nussmeier, who we were very high on in August, and we know that like the best of Aaron Anderson is incredibly impressive, that they have star power on this offense. And even the best of Caden Durham, even though they haven't been running the ball that impressively, is very impressive. Like, he is legitimately just as an individual talent. I am confident in saying he's a good player. They haven't been able to sort of put it together against the better teams that they've played this year in Florida and Clemson offensively, and there's a lot of talent on those teams, and the defense has been the story. I just the Brian Kelly freak out after somebody asked him about a very real concern at LSU is, other than the long run to end things, they weren't able to move the ball on the ground. And that was a concern after last year. And that was something that they were, they had a couple big plays against Clemson, but this isn't a complete offense. And given what they've put into this offense, him freaking out at a reporter asking him about that, I mean, the question probably could have been phrased more artfully, in that saying like, hey, there's always positives and negatives to take away from any game. Obviously, beating Florida is an exciting thing for LSU football always. What are the sort of positives and things that you want to work on? And he answered that question, not that question. He answered the question, which was like, are you concerned about the running situation? I'm paraphrasing here, in a way that like he's only watching the SEC network. Like he's only watching a PR TV show all the time that tells him how good he smells all the time, and didn't understand why coaches like Nick Saban and Kirby Smart come away from wins saying things like, we've got a lot to clean up. I'm not satisfied that we met our bar today. And Brian Kelly just was behind a podium with just zero ability to put anything in perspective and to talk about anything. And I understand after a game you're emotional, and I like the emotional aspect of these guys at the podium after these big close games or whatever. But zero ability to put anything in perspective was unfortunately kind of par for the course for this guy.
Well, here's the thing. I am very fluent in BK.
Yeah. But he's just so deeply unlikable all of the time.
He really is. And here's the thing about him. He is the consummate politician.
Sure.
He has been a master over the years at not giving too much of anything away, which is why when you see some of these character breaks, like the one that we saw with him at the podium, that to me indicates this is a dude who's feeling the pressure.
Yeah.
And they're undefeated, and they're a top 5 team, and they've got games coming up that are clearly going to challenge their mettle, right? They're going to Ole Miss in a couple weeks. They're going to Alabama in week 11 as we get into the month of November, as that game is typically played. They've got a big home tilt in week 9 at the end of October when you're going to be away, actually, against Texas A&M. So there are going to be opportunities here for, I think, more pressure cookers in the SEC as ever. But if we're seeing this now, this tells me that Brian Kelly understands that he is very much under the microscope. In a
this
way
is
that
LSU.
It is LSU.
This place had maybe the best college football offense ever not that long ago. There is a bar there. It should be
no great surprise that you're under the microscope.
Yeah.
But what this tells me when we see breaks in character like this from him especially, this tells me that he's feeling the heat. He is absolutely feeling the heat. I am not concerned about this. And the reason I'm not concerned about the offense is because I would much rather be asking the question about, hey, you're going to figure out the offense, than what the hell are we going to do about the defense? Because that's been the question the first couple years for BK. The defense has been a train wreck. This season, if we are to take anything away from what we have seen early against 2 at least quality opponents in Clemson and Florida, the defense has looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Defense has definitely held up its end of the bargain. So if you're telling me that you loaded up this offseason, you did everything you could to get better on offense, to surround your pro caliber quarterback with better skill talent, and just on the whole, get better on that side of the ball, give them a little bit more pop, I'm pretty confident that they will figure that out in due course. But
sure.
Defensively, that was the biggest question coming into this thing. If they continue to play this well, you got to like where they're at. Because eventually they have to figure out the offensive side of the ball. There has to be more pop.
They're the bizarro Notre Dame.
Oh, God.
They are, right? They're winning losable games, technically, I guess. I mean, the Florida game was... the interceptions help and everything, but they did not play well enough on offense to typically win against a quality team, if that's what we consider Florida to be. Notre Dame does not have Brian Kelly anymore. LSU very much does have Brian Kelly right now. And they're winning some games in not super exciting fashion, and Notre Dame's losing those games. So, yeah, there's a bizarro element to some of this.
Final team here is Notre Dame, and it is the defense.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm very concerned about this defense. Al Golden had this defense playing at a very high level, and that goes without saying. And it had been a long slog to get the Notre Dame defense to this point, or to the point it was at.
Sure.
At the end of last season. Granted, some turnover, but still, I think a lot intact. Clearly, nobody expected that there would be this big of a step back. If you would have told me last year that Notre Dame would score 40 points against anybody and lose, like they did this past weekend against Texas A&M,
right,
I would have said you're crazy. Even if there were a medium step back with Chris Ash, I still would have said you're crazy. 40 points, I will take that in a just every day of the week. I'll take that.
Right.
But what we're seeing right now is an inability to get pressure. What we are seeing right now is miscommunication in the secondary. What we are seeing right now, I would say across the board, is a lot less discipline than I'm used to seeing. I don't think it's an issue of not having the talent. I think they have, by leaps and bounds, improved their talent on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah.
I think this is a scheme thing, and I think this is a Chris Ash thing.
Okay.
And so, Marcus Freeman got the question, are you going to consider making any changes and who's calling the plays on defense? He said no. He said what he had to say in that moment. But I'm curious to see how Freeman solves this problem, if he can solve this problem, because he's been good at doing that.
Yeah.
When he's had his back up against the wall, Marcus Freeman, I think, has done a pretty good job figuring out what these problems are and solving them in many cases in real time.
Yeah.
That was on display last year, especially on the offensive side of the ball where they had so many injuries along the line. They were good at kind of piecing that together on the fly. So I give him benefit of the doubt that he's got the talent in place and he's got the know-how to fix things quickly. But this has definitely been a concerning step back, and it is not a mirage, because we have seen them now against two quality opponents, and in both cases it's been more of the same, where there's been miscommunication. They cannot get pressure despite the fact that I think they've got really good talent in the front seven. This is a scheme thing, in my opinion. This is a Chris Ash thing, in my opinion, who, by the way, none of us were all that crazy about when they hired him.
Urban Meyer was.
But Urban Meyer can go pound sand, Dan, because I've been watching what Notre Dame's been doing these last two games, and it has not been that exciting. Okay, so whatever Urban thinks, forget it. That's out the window. This defense that was top 10 caliber the last couple seasons has taken a huge fall from grace here in the early part of the season. They got to make some kind of change to figure out a way forward with this, because if they want to make any serious run at the postseason, which granted,
right,
feels like a bit of a stretch at this point, but who the hell knows, right? It's still very early. Notre Dame needs to show what it can do over these next 5 weeks. Otherwise, it's going to be game over.
Yep.
So they got to get it together in a hurry. And whether that's with or without Chris Ash as the one calling the plays and designing the schemes, I guess that remains to be seen.
I'm just as shocked as anybody that Marcus Freeman has struggled with a coordinator hire, because he hasn't done that in like 2 weeks. So good to see that some things you can still count on.
You scoundrel.
Am I wrong?
You are a scoundrel.
Maybe
No.
I'm wrong by the end of the season. Look, we all have wonderful memories of the Gerard Parker era and Tommy Rees
It's
last
Jared Parker, sir.
Jared Gerard. We all have fond memories of that, obviously, and interviewing 44 candidates to be an offensive coordinator and landing on his friend. That's cool. It'll work out somehow, some way.
I don't know, man. I'm confounded, let's say, on how this has gotten this bad this quickly, but it looks like a completely different defense right now and not in a good way.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.